Okay, thank you, Carla, and good afternoon. My guest is one of the entertainment industry's most sought-after actresses. She began her career in New York theater, mainly in off-Broadway productions. Audiences first took notice when she appeared on Law and Order in the episode Damaged. And her first few films, the comedies In and Out, opposite Kevin Kline, Can't Hardly Wait, with a cast of up-and-comers, including Jennifer Love Hewitt, and playing Chicklet in Charles Busch's cult favorite, Psycho Beach Party. Go right ahead. I love that everybody loves that film. She is known to millions of TV fans for her 5-year run as Claire Fisher on the hit HBO series 6 Feet Under, for which she won 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards. On stage, she made her illustrious Broadway debut in Lincoln Center Theater's production of Clifford Odets' classic Awake and Sing, opposite Mark Ruffalo. Other productions include Exit the King, opposite Jeffrey Rush. Go ahead. Susan Sarandon and Andrea Martin. At the Delacorte Theater in Central Park as Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, co-starring with Oscar Isaac. And Hamlet, co-starring with Michael Stuhlbarg. And at the National Theater in Buried Child, her film work includes Where the Wild Things Are, Wanderlust, Sleepwalk with Me, Starting Out in the Evening, I'm Coming Over, and The River. On television, she played Jilly Kitzinger on Torchwood Miracle Day, one of my favorites. And now she is back on Broadway, dazzling audiences as Eliza Doolittle in Lincoln Center Theater's glorious new production of Lerner and Loewe's My Fair Lady. Please welcome Lauren Ambrose.
Pick up my microphone. I can't believe you mentioned the Psycho Beach Party. That's so great. And that it got...
See?
Charles Busch, he's so amazing.
We're gonna talk about that. First of all, welcome back to Broadway. How does it feel this time around?
Oh, gee, it's wonderful. And it's totally different. I've never done a musical before, so this has been a steep learning curve and humbling. Anybody who does this work is no joke. This is hard work, but very fulfilling and glorious as well. So I don't know. I mean, it's been a lovely experience so far, and I love working with the people that I'm working with. It is a group of tremendous artists. So
yeah, you are glorious in this show.
Thank you.
When you were first cast as Eliza, what were some of the thoughts that went through your mind, like how you were going to play her? What were your first initial thoughts?
Well, it was an audition process to be cast as Eliza. That was not handed to me. So it was a lot of learning, even just in the audition room and in the preparing the part.
So what did you do for your audition? Like, what was the audition process like for Eliza?
Well, I asked Bart if I could audition more. I'd worked with him on Awake and Sing, and I read that he was doing My Fair Lady, and I said, could I throw my hat into the... I said, what I'd like to do is throw my hat into the ring, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to come in and audition, may I do that? And he said, all right. And in his very Bart Scher way. And it was pretty extensive, actually. It was many songs and probably 50 pages of dialogue. And I mean, it was pretty serious. They weren't going to take any chances there. So it was serious business. But I mean, I was absolutely thrilled and honored and feel so grateful to the universe to have gotten the part and get to play. I mean, there's so many great parts out there. And this is one of the great parts for a woman to play. But there are so many great parts, and you can't play them all. And the fact that I get to play this one in this lifetime feels miraculous to me. And I'm just so grateful that it worked out. Because these things, they come together, they fall apart, they come together, they fall apart. And it's not, So this one seemed to hold together. So that was lucky.
No, people don't realize when you're putting a show together, there's so much involved in putting a musical or a play together that sometimes whatever the issues are, they just don't come about, for whatever reason. And this is such a beautiful production. You're working with one of the most sought after directors, of course, with Bartlett Sher.
Right.
What makes him such a great director?
Well, Bart, he really is such a wonderful collaborator, and I mean, at least on this piece, we like stripped away all the. Well, there's so many versions. It's like you learn from all the different versions. You start with the Greek myth, Galatea, and then there's Pygmalion, of course. Then there's the Pygmalion movie with Wendy Hiller and Leslie Howard. Then there's the musical. Then there's the movie musical. So there's so many iterations of this one idea, and you sort of learn from all of them, and then put them aside and figure out what is going to happen, in this particular room with this unique group of people. I mean, one of the amazing things about Bart is he's surrounded himself with these incredible artists. I mean, Michael Jurgen, who's designed the sets, and Kathy Zuber's costumes are just extraordinary. Christopher Gattelli is the choreographer. He's amazing. Don Holder, the lighting designer, is incredibly talented. I mean, God, he's probably still designing the lights. It was this constantly evolving process. I would just notice things throughout. We had a long preview period, so throughout the previews, things would be changing, and I realized, oh, he's still working. So he's surrounded himself with these incredible artists, and then he's always searching for the truth. You look at all the versions, and then find our truth. And he, even with how decorated and fancy he was still so respectful and collaborative, and really trusts his people that he's surrounded himself with and hired. So I don't know. There's something about that, something about him really respecting other people's artistry, which is why I, would really. I mean, he's the person I'd want to do this with. I mean, it's a tricky piece, and it could go wrong and in the wrong hands. And I just think he's done such a beautiful job with realizing it and telling the story in this moment in time. Yeah.
Wait, I know he works a lot during the preview period. I love how he works because things change. You add the audience into the mix, and that's like the last part of when you put a show on.
Yeah.
What was the preview period like for you with
I'll say that again about Bart too. He's still coming into my dressing room and saying, okay, what do you think about that moment? And oh, good, I'm glad you came in and mentioned that because I was thinking this. And then we have another conversation. I mean, the show's been open for weeks but he's around, he's in the building, and so we're still going. And it's just a constant process, constantly searching.
But isn't that great when you're doing a show? Because every time it's new, the audience dictates a lot for you, and you just find new things every night you're doing it, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, I mean, people say, how did you create the character? I'm like, I think we're still creating, hopefully. I mean, it really does feel like I'm learning new things every night. I mean, it's such a massive mountain that she climbs every night, and I feel like I'm still finding new ways and figuring things out, and both technically and emotionally in the.
For me and many theater goers who have already seen the show, what I love about this production and your version of her is it's actually a love story of Liza, of discovering herself and the type of woman she becomes. Do you sort of agree with that?
Well put.
Okay.
I absolutely agree with that. I feel like, people say that this is a story about a transformation or the ultimate makeover, or a story of this man who transforms a woman into his ideal woman and decides to change her life. But the reality is, she hears this guy talking in Covent Garden about language and how language could be this great equalizer, which was this interesting idea to Shaw, which is why he wrote this character based on some real life dialecticians. So if she hears him talking this in this unique way, and he tosses some money to her, and what does she do with this money? But she goes to his house the next day. This gutter kid very bravely goes to this man's apartment, way out of her depth, out of her realm, out of her class, and says, I'm here for lessons. I want to change my life. I'm here. She's ambitious. She wants to do something else, and that starts the whole play. That starts the whole plot off. That's where Pickering gets this idea, off they go. And then they go to the ball, and there's this, and that's the end, right? That could be the end of the play. But then there's the whole second act. And I learned somewhere in the rehearsal process that that's where the transformation begins. Now she's got the manners and the veneer of a lady. Now she's seen as a lady in the world. But now, what will she do? Where does she fit in? What will she do with her life now? And sort of finds her. That's where she begins to actually find her strength, find her agency, and transform and learn, you know, how she has to be in the world. And she learns that from him. And then, of course, he starts to learn from her. And it's a very complicated story. It's really complex. It's also really funny. Not to be too ponderous, but like it's very, it's complicated and beautiful and, yeah.
I remember Audrey Hepburn saying that when she made the film, she found Cockney Eliza harder to do. That's why she wanted to film that all first before she got into Lady Eliza.
Right.
I was wondering, what have the challenges been for you? Because, you know, when you watch her sing the Cockney, is it easy to sing? Do you put your voice somewhere else? I mean, all the sounds you make. So is the Cockney harder for you?
Well, it's definitely harder, just technically it's harder. It can be pretty muscular and like, you know, jawy, chewy and muscular. And so you don't want to get into too much of that because that can cause tension, which is the nemesis of the 8-show-a-week performer. But the singing, the singing in the Cockney. You know what's kind of great though is that in all the singing, she makes all these sounds. And it's in the. You read the musical, the book of the musical, and it's like A O O O O O O W W W W W W 23 exclamation points. And you're like, how am I going to do that? I don't know. What's going to come out? And so here I am sort of meowing like a crazy cat every night, which is essentially, it's sort of a vocal warm-up. I mean, that's in a sense, meow, meow. So I get to make all these sounds, which so I just decided to place them in the, you know, vocal warm-up in the mask, as they say.
So you get your warm-up on stage.
Well, it's amazing how this musical is constructed.
Yeah.
It almost is designed, I mean, this is the brilliance of the songwriting in this piece. It's almost designed that way. It's like Loverly is this little vocal warm-up. It's in, you know, a small range and lots of meow and all of that stuff. And then it gets a little bit beltier, you know, yellier, angrier into Just You Wait. And then you get into Rain in Spain, which is getting a little bit of a higher range. And then Danced All Night is in a higher range. And then Show Me is in that sort of, you know, sharper place. And it sort of grows. And I've found a way, at least I think it's really interesting, to make this vocal arc in the piece, but it's also really just there for me. So I'm not doing anything like revolutionary. I'm just doing what's clearly written and how it's clearly built, and so masterfully. So.
Well, let's talk about the score. What a beautiful score written by Lerner and Lowe.
Oh, it's extraordinary. And you get to do a Shaw play with all of this glorious music every night. I mean, that's why I think it's so beloved and why it's such an incredible piece. I mean, they took chunks of the Ascot is just absolutely transposed. It's one of the most brilliantly written scenes I've ever read, and certainly ever played. So,
yeah. Is it great singing their songs?
Oh, yes, and continuing to discover what that means, and the orchestrations are so interesting too. Ted Sperling is our musical director, and he's so talented, and he knows so much about this score, and he's found little ways of changing things and putting things in, and even I think even in Get Me to the Church on Time, he's put in pieces of music that were maybe taken out. I could be misspeaking. Maybe they're in other places, but music that was sort of not used, and he snuck them in.
Snuck it back in.
Yeah. really interesting. But even in, like, Without You is the last song she sings where she realizes that she, at least I'm playing it, that she really is realizing in that moment, like, wow, I don't need this person in my life anymore. Oh my God, the world goes on even without this man, and I can do this. And but it refers back to all of her songs, like if musically, the Loverly is in there, and Just You Wait is in there, and Show Me is in there. You know, all the songs are referred back to in the final song she sings, which is kind of neat if you listen for them. Yeah.
Oh, I can listen to that.
Yeah.
It was like her whole life is playing back through this song.
Oh, that's a nice way of thinking. I'm going to do that tonight. I'll use it. I'm going to use it tonight. Perfect. Thank you.
You are working with the best of the best on stage. What is it
know.
like working with and sharing the stage with this remarkable company of actors? I mean, Harry, Diana Rigg, Norbert Leo Butz, Alan, I mean, riches.
Yes, I feel they're glorious performers and artists. Harry is such a beautiful actor, and I think is bringing such interesting things to this Henry Higgins. I think it's really interesting that he and I are have an age parity that is not usually the case. Another thing I think that Bart Sher did cleverly and brilliantly is having us have that inherent equality through our ages being more similar than in some cases when the story is told with the older guy and the very young girl. And Diana Rigg played Eliza Doolittle, and her Mrs. Higgins. I can't think of who played her Mrs. Higgins. I'm sure this is researchable, but she worked directly with Shaw, her Mrs. Higgins. So then she played Eliza, and then she's playing Mrs. Higgins too. So I feel like I'm in the direct line of receiving.
She's got to be so great to work with.
Yes, she's wonderful. She's wonderful. And I love every night, I love when we're waiting in the wings to come out, and I take in her perfume that she's wearing, and she smells so beautiful, and she looks so beautiful in her gown. And we walk out together, and she has such ease on stage, you know, and she delivers these lines like these zingers, and she just effortlessly, and she's masterful. And it's so wonderful because Eliza in that moment has to, she advises her, she says, remember, she says, you stay where you are, and you remember that last night you behaved like a lady and you were taken for a princess. And she reminds her to be a lady and to be strong in that. And then here's this shining example of this woman who's so strong and in all of her power and yet such a lady, a dame even. And so that's kind of wonderful every night to be literally learning from her how Eliza can hold herself as a lady and hold her own in that scene with lightness and humor, but still, calmly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Working with Norbert.
Yeah, Norbert and I only get a few little moments really together. He's so amazing. What energy, right? I mean, when he's on stage, it's electric. I feel like I've learned so much from him just in that respect. Yeah, I'm just in awe of what he's willing to do with his body and like jumping off the tables and everything else. And I mean, it's a pretty impressive situation.
You're Pickering in that.
And
with
Alan
yeah.
Cordoner, he
Yeah.
is such a beautiful actor. And, Pickering, I don't know. I feel like you kind of think of it or don't think of it as a role but he's brought this beautiful heart and humanity to Pickering, and she credits him at the end. She says, he's the one who taught me how to be a lady because of the way he treated me as a lady. And he really does. He cares for her from the very first moment they have together. He's annoyed and he doesn't buy the flower, but he says, oh, here's some money if you want it, if it's any use to you. And then off they go. He's always sort of standing up for her and overseeing her being a protector of her. But he's such a beautiful actor. He's brought such wit and funniness and heart to that part. It's really extraordinary. He's a master.
You mentioned Catherine Zuber's clothes. The costumes in this production are so beautiful. It's particularly the ones you wear. Do you remember the first time you saw yourself done up in wigs and hats and clothes? And like,
Oh, I should also say, Alan is hilarious. Like off stage when we're walking out with for Ask It, he's always saying the funniest things to me. He's like, because I'm playing, the line is that she's pinned into the dress. And so I'm trying to be, I am actually like corseted into this dress for Ask It, and I'm walking in these high heels for the first time in the show. And he says, okay, now stand up straight, and you'll just take a few more steps every day, and soon you'll fit into the dress. Before long, you'll see that it will fit. I don't know. He just cracks me up he cracks me up. He's so funny. Anyway.
Going back to the clothes, Kathy Zuber. When you saw yourself done up, like with everything on, like what were your initial thoughts? Like, wow.
With all of the.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, I really defer to her and her artistry and her expertise. I loved it. I've been doing wardrobe fittings with her since November. I mean, really long time ago. She got started on building the Eliza costumes because there are so many, and she'd say, "Oh, I was thinking about this fabric, and I don't know. What do you think?" And I'm like, "What do I think? Who cares what I think? Like, you know where I don't know what I mean. It doesn't matter what I think. Like, I don't even want to weigh in. Like, you just." Because usually, often with movie and film, I'm sort of like, pushy or not, I'm like, well, I was thinking, and for this, I'm like, do your work. Let me stay out of it.
How many costumes do you have?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know that I've counted. Well, there's the Cockney, and there's about 65 changes in our montage that I do, and the Ask It, the ball, and back to Covent Garden. I mean, there's probably 10.
All right.
Yeah, maybe more than 10. And there's 7 wigs, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
You get a real workout.
If I'm not on stage, my friend Camille Zamora, who's an amazing opera singer, she came in and she said, "This is like Madame Butterfly, you're on stage the whole time." Because if I'm not on stage, I'm like 4 feet off stage in, I call it the ambulance. I'm in like an emergency costume change with like 17 making wardrobe and hair people pinning and zipping and pulling and slapping on eyelashes, and it's a scene in there. Yeah.
The emergency room, I love it. How do you stay healthy?
They push me out there.
They throw you out there.
Right.
How do you stay in shape for 8 shows a week? Like you said, this is such a demanding role to do.
I drink my water.
Okay.
Hydration is key.
Okay.
And I don't know, no booze, no caffeine. Well, I have my tea. I have my my treat is my cup of black tea. I don't know, sleep is like the main thing, because one's voice gets tired after 8 shows. And it's not, I mean, the singing is fine, actually. It's the talking, the whole play it's 3 hours long. It's long, it's a long piece. And sometimes we do 2, so.
What a double day is like for you?
What, literally, what are they like? Get to the theater, try to get some PT in, which, they're very nice, the physical therapy. I have an amazing PT lady who she tries to massage out all the, knots in our necks and our jaws and stuff, and try to do a big vocal warm-up, pretty big physical warm-up. Try to greet everybody that I'm going to go on stage with, and and then it's like jumping onto a moving train, because like the overture starts, and before I know it, the stage is spinning around and I'm on it, and I literally feel like I'm on this train and I'm on this thing with Eliza, and then off we go, and she's off in this, this most important transformation of her life, and I feel so honored to get to do that. But it's sort of like grab on for dear life and you go until it's over. I mean, it really is like nonstop for 3 hours for me. So I mean, I've never done anything like that before. So it's a new experience, and it's a new it's definitely a learning curve about how to work that way, how to technically, vocally, how to use the microphone. What little microphones are. I mean, they're not we're not using them, and we still have to do, you know, vocal energy, but using it when we can, and yeah, singing healthily, speaking healthily.
It's a whole different animal.
Breath
musicals.
being really bright and alive, so that it can really sustain us, and yeah. Oh, so then I like, it's over, and then I go grab something to eat, try to maybe see my children on those 2 show days. That's tricky. I try to lay eyes on them briefly, and then
Start again.
Excuse myself, try to close my eyes for at least 15 minutes. What's wonderful is that the dressing room, there's no windows, so it's like a cave. So I can just lie there for 15 minutes, and then off we go again.
Start all over again.
Yeah.
Go into the emergency room.
Back on the train. Exactly.
Well, I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up, where did your love for the theater begin, and what were your earliest creative outlets?
Well, I was always singing from when I was little. I always wanted to be a singer, and singing in church with Sister Marie Antoinette, and you know, and the church choirs, and literally Marie Antoinette, Sister Marie Antoinette was her name. And I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, and Yale is there, and there were lots of opportunities for me to have wonderful teachers and singing in choruses, and various opportunities to perform and sing through that.
Was there a defining moment when you said, I want to be an actor and try to make a living at this?
Well, so because I grew up in New Haven, which isn't too far from New York, I auditioned for some plays when I was a kid, and actually auditioned for like a lot of, like, you know, I auditioned for stuff, but fortunately, the only things I got were like these off-Broadway plays. And I did a play at the Vineyard Theater with some wonderful actors. I did a play at the Ensemble Studio Theater in the Marathon, and I remember, especially with that one, I was about 14 years old, and it was summer, and it was in New York, and we're rehearsing, and it's like you go up the walk up to get to the little tiny theater to rehearse, and the people were so invested in what they were doing, and it was just such an incredible community, and I never really had that feeling before, and it's the same feeling that I have now at Lincoln Center in this building and in this theater, where I feel like, I don't know, there's something about actors and being in that community. They're just in that moment of like going, you know, rehearsing that play when I was 14 years old, and the third floor walk-up theater, I was like, this is the best. Like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, and it's just so inspired by those people.
Yeah. Well, you have this wonderful, well-rounded career on stage, screen, and television. So let's just chat about some of the highlights. Just tell me what comes to mind, a story or a great memory, okay?
Okay.
Here we go. This is your life, Lauren Ambrose. Your first film role was in the Kevin Kline comedy In and Out.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
It's such a good movie, right?
It's a great movie.
I gotta show that one to my kid. Yeah.
What was it like working with Kevin Kline and being on a film set for the first time?
It was insane. I was 18 years old, and Debbie Reynolds, Tom Selleck, Bob Newhart, Kevin Kline, Joan Cusack, Matt Dillon, I mean, the list goes on. It was, I'm looking around like, what is going on? Frank Oz was the director. I was a student. There were 4 of us, and we were students, and he was the teacher. And we did these big auditorium scenes, and so we're like hundreds and hundreds of extras. And Debbie Reynolds would get up and do like Tammy and pratfalls, and everyone was like, oh God, what does she do? She would do like a show to entertain the troops. And also Frank Oz would do like Fozzie Bear. And it was pretty, and Miss Piggy. It was pretty amazing. And they would ask him to do Yoda, but he would say, I truly can't remember how to do it. Anyway, that was that, and working with the amazing costumer Anne Roth. I believe she was the costume director on that show. Wow. And she just remember going in, and I'm playing this student, like, who cares, put me in anything, like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so I remember going in, and she had this, like, bevy of, I think she's nominated for, like, 40 Tonys in this season.
This season.
Yeah, that she, at least 3 or something like that. And she would have this group of girls and assistants around her, and she would look at me in the 3-way mirror, and I'd have to face away from her, and she'd say, I see a gray sweatshirt. And they'd all run and get a gray sweatshirt. And they'd come back with 17 gray sweatshirts. And that was an amazing job to be your first job. And I was like, what is going on? This is unbelievable.
To have Debbie Reynolds do a show, to have Frank Oz do a show on the
Yeah,
set, to have
yeah.
all those people.
And then get to and then the first scenes we ever did were with Kevin Kline. He was such a beautiful actor.
Yeah.
And so nurturing to us kids. It was great.
TV audiences first took notice of you on Law & Order in that episode, Damaged, where you played Valerie Maxwell. I remember this so vividly. And
So many people do.
Yeah, they do.
People come up to me on the subway and they're like, that judge. Yeah, they're very...
Because tell the audience who you played and what was it like living in that world and getting through that episode?
Oh my God, I was so young. I don't know. I played this girl who was mentally disabled, and she was, sexually abused, and that was the case, and this it was. I actually went and met with some people who were very helpful to me, and some beautiful people who had various challenges in their life, and helped me realize that she could still have a very clear version of herself. But again, I was learning how to be on film. But that was exciting, because that was a really interesting role to play and be sort of granted the moment to play, because I had to really make some serious choices with how I was going to do it. That was physically and mannerisms and whatever else. That was a gift. Actually, I learned a lot on that.
Because I remember watching that episode. We were all like, "Who is that girl?"
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know people. It was such an interesting part. Yeah.
Up next was a high school comedy. Can't Hardly Wait, with an ensemble cast of newcomers. Listen to this list: Jennifer Love Hewitt, Peter Fasinelli, Seth Green. I mean, what are your fondest memories of doing that? Because you were all up-and-comers then,
There's also
right?
others that are secretly in it, like Selma Blair is like barely in it, but she's like
Student number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or Clea Duvall is like in it, for 4 seconds, literally. Like these beautiful actors who've gone on to do these incredible things. I was 19, and I went and I had to do a screen test for it. It was a very old-fashioned, very Hollywood moment, and I, got the job, which was miraculous. I was about 19, maybe I was 20, and I was skinny, but had a chubby face, And I went in, I had hair about here, and they said, we're gonna give you a really cool haircut for this. We're gonna cut it short, and it's gonna be really funky and cool. And if you go look at this haircut they gave me. I wanna find that hairdresser and talk to her about what was on her mind when she was giving me that cool haircut, because it was awful. But so I learned how to a little bit stand up for myself with how I want to be, how I want to look, and how the character could look. There were so many. Oh, so I was skinny, and I was chubby faced, and I remember the director. There were 2 directors, and the woman came up to me and she said, "We're gonna. Wow, this is so hard for me to say, but we're wondering if we could. They want to get you a trainer." And I thought, okay, an acting trainer, I don't know. Why don't you just tell me how you want me to do it differently, and we'll work on the scenes. I'll do the scene however you want. I mean, we know you haven't really said anything. And they're like, "Oh, no, you're great. And so I don't know. So I think I went to the gym twice or something, and I'm like, "What do you want from me?" I look the way I look, and
a trainer.
They meant they want me to go work out in between doing it. And I think I said, "Oh, okay." And I did that, for 5 seconds, and then But I wonder if they would do that now.
You have to Google what she looked like in this movie with that haircut. Because I looked at pictures the other day, I'm like, is that her?
Oh, that haircut. Unbelievable. Like Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. It was of its time, though, right?
Ah, not the haircut. The movie. The movie's great. But honestly, enough about the haircut, Lauren. Let it go. But the movie itself has these extremely long legs. I feel like so many people come up to me, like kids, people who are a little younger than I am, and they're like, that movie meant everything to me in my childhood. So there you go.
My nieces watched that movie.
There you go.
There you go. Well, then you played Chicklet in the hilarious Charles Busch
I know.
cult favorite. There, go again. Yeah. Comedy film, Psycho Beach Party. How much fun was it living in the world of Charles Busch and working on that movie?
It was amazing, and he was in it too.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was so great. And Bob King, who directed it, just came to see the show the other day and came back and said hi. I haven't seen him in 100 years. But that was another one. That was one where I was like, I can do this. Like I don't know why I thought I could, but I was like, I can do this. I can play all these different multiple personalities in this girl, and yeah, had to get in the water and surf briefly, and literally had never done it before. They're like, okay, so this time we're literally in Malibu, and they're like, take this surfboard about 12 feet long, like these giants are just, take the surfboard and just run into the ocean and then just put it down and then just kind of jump and paddle out, jump on, paddle out, and then just jump on. And I was like, should we practice this? Are there sharks? Like, what are you talking about? This is an indie, clearly. This is an indie. And like, I don't know, as an actor, you get to a place where you're like, they say like, so have you ever surfed before? And have you ever horseback riding? Ever done that? And you just say, no, not really, but I'm taking lessons. And so that's like it's always the go-to line. Yeah, like taking lessons. So that was my mindset. Like, all right, this is my surf lesson. I'm just gonna do this. I remember trying to do that. I don't know what of that. My first attempt, like literally, I'd never surfed before in my life, and they just roll cameras on that one. So I don't know what of that ended up in the movie, but I think something is in there of that. I remember that they were very worried. They wanted to make my hair blonde because Surfer Girl has to be blonde. And I thought, my mother she told me the one thing, I can't dye my hair because you just aren't going to get it back. It's not going to, you can't dye your hair. And so I said, well, I really don't want to dye my hair. And Charles Busch was like, he came to my aid and my rescue completely. He was like, it's a gift. The comedian with red hair, like it has to be. Like Lucille Ball, and because he's always a redhead. And he was like, it should be red, so. A lot about hair. Lauren Ambrose and her many moments of hair.
On film and television.
Tragedies of hair.
This should be a chapter in your book.
Yeah.
I love this. You are known to millions of fans from the hit HBO pop culture TV series 6 Feet Under, where you played Claire Fisher. I vividly remember watching that first episode. We were like, what is this show? This is so great.
Yeah.
What are some of your fondest memories of that show? And you were the perfect ensemble of actors.
Oh, well, and I remember reading it and being like, I have to get this one.
How did that come about for you? Like, how did 6 Feet Under come about? Just an audition?
Same thing, yeah. The agents, they were lucky enough to send it to me, and I was lucky enough that they sent it to me, rather, and I suppose they were lucky too because they got paid for it, But no, it came my way, and I went in and auditioned, and it was not an audition on tape, which is so often the case nowadays, but it was an audition with Alan Ball, and he directed me, and we worked together on it, and then I went back, and you test for the studio and for the executives at HBO, and you do this very stressful test again, and I got the part, and who knows, maybe it was just because Franny Conroy had red hair, but I don't know, I got the part. They put a family together, and so I was very, oh God, so grateful to have worked on that show. I feel like it was acting boot camp for me. I didn't go to school for acting, I didn't go to anywhere for 4 years for acting, so I think of that as that was such an education to get to act every day. I mean, that's the miracle of being on a series, especially that runs for a while, is that you get to work every day. So much of being an actor is you're waiting to work and you're sort of like trying to sharpen the axe and be ready to work. But when you're in a series like that, which I didn't even realize how rare it is at the time because I was really young, but it was an amazing opportunity. Yeah, to work with Frances Conroy as my mother all the time, and get to do those scenes with her in the kitchen, and work with Michael Hall and Peter Krause. It was pretty extraordinary. And they would, it was really became. I think it was probably the closest experience I have had to like the group theater, where it's really a company, and then the writers are writing to your strengths too. They're writing these little fantasy moments, right? They know I can sing, and they know that I'm interested in musical theater, so they write these little fantasy moments for me to have a singing fantasy or whatever. Or so it was. Yeah, it was such an interesting collaboration, just as a big company to work together that way for so long.
When it ended, what did you miss the most? We missed not having it to watch as an audience member. Seriously, I was horrified when that show ended. I loved that show. What did you miss the most when the show went off the air?
Well, like I said, the steady job, acting every day, and the people, and some of the people, just getting to see those people every day and work with them. But it was really amazing acting school for me to work on that, because I remember there was one particular episode. I think it was one of the Kathy Bates came in, and she was in it, but she also directed at least one every season, and she. As an actor, we did this. It was me and Peter Krause, and we did this. We had this emotional scene on the washing machine in the little porch, and sitting on the washing machines and dryers. And she shot it as a 2-shot, and then when you're on TV show, you do a wide shot and then a 2-shot, and then you go in for coverage and do the singles. And I remember saying, and it was just so beautiful that we did the scene together in the 2-shot, and it was so nice, and we surprised each other, and it was a really beautiful take. And I said, oh, it's too bad we can't just leave it at that. And she said, you know what, let's do that. And then she let us that's how the scene played. So there's no cuts and no editing and no anything in that one scene in God knows which episode. I'm sure it's researchable, but of me and Peter just sitting there and having our scene. So that was kind of neat.
That's great. One of my favorite films that I watched numerous times with my nieces and nephews is the fantasy drama Where the Wild Things Are, where you voice the role of KW, right? Mm-hmm. That female wild thing.
The one that looks like me with the big round face and the long red hair.
That one, yeah.
It literally, people say, which one? I'm like, the one that looks like me. Yeah.
How did that film come about for you, and did you enjoy that whole process?
Yeah, it was fascinating. I came into it late, so I came in after they'd done all the really crazy stuff of like throwing things at each other in a room, and I came in to do it. But I did work with James Gandolfini. We worked together and recorded stuff together, and so we would be mic'd, and we had these headbands mics. So like we had these headbands on each other, and we're at some point screaming in each other's faces, and we had these foam balls that we would like throwing at. Spike Jones would throw the stuff at us and get certain reactions. I don't know. It was fascinating how that all came to be. Another one I should show my children.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me.
That's 2 so far.
Yeah.
You played Jilly Kitzinger, the PR genius, on another pop culture TV series, Torchwood, Miracle Day, opposite John Barrowman.
Yes.
How much fun was that series to do?
Oh, that was really wild. I'd never been a part of anything sci-fi before, and so that was a genre that I was interested in seeing just how they do it. And yeah, I don't know. It was great. Great costumes, great hair on that one. Lots of voluptuous curls and Dolce & Gabbana. Very, Yes.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah, really fancy. And I got to do lots of fast talking and be kind of a character that I'd never played before. Yeah, that was neat.
Did you ever do any of the Comic-Con shows?
No,
Okay.
I never have.
Would you like to?
Gee, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe for the right thing.
Okay, fabulous. On stage, you played Shelley in Sam Shepard's Pulitzer Prize-winning play Buried Child for the National Theatre in London.
Yeah.
What was that was it a challenging play to do, Sam Shepard?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was a challenging play to do. I mean, it's certainly a complicated play to do, but it's so beautifully written that there's so much in there. It's so rich. Matthew Warchus directed that, and he was friends with Sam Shepard, and he would get him on the phone with us, and we would do a little conference call with Sam Shepard. On that one, I didn't have to learn the accent, but all the other actors did have to learn American accents. It was very strange to be immersing ourselves for 8 hours of rehearsal in, the Midwest and the corn and the carrots and the feeling of the farm in the Midwest, and then we'd walk out and be like the Thames and the
In British accents.
and like Dick Van Dyke going by in British accents. Yeah. David.
You made your Broadway debut in the Lincoln Center Theater revival of Clifford Odets' classic Awake Sing
Yes.
for director Bartlett Sher with another stellar cast, including Mark Ruffalo. I remember
Yeah,
watching
it was
that so
incredible.
vividly. What was that experience like for you working on that play and doing that?
Oh, that was an amazing play. Again, the cast. I mean, Ben Gazzara was in that. Zoe Wanamaker, Mark Ruffalo, Rich Topol, Pablo Schreiber. There's just Jonathan Hadari. Was my father. It was amazing. The end of the play. So we did the play, and the exact footprint of Michael Jurgen designed it, so it was the exact footprint of the house, of the apartment that was initially done in the same theater, in the Belasco. So it was all, we were really reviving this thing, this ghost. And at the end of our play, the walls started to slowly rise up and release the family into the heavens, and it was and you could see the walls of the theater, the brick of the theater, the old theater, and you could see the outline of the footprint of the house on the stage still. It's very moving. Ben Gazzara was amazing in that play, and I think it was maybe his last play that he did.
Yeah. So I remember talking to all of you during that process, and you were
Yeah.
all sort of speechless because you were like living in this world of Clifford Odets and going back to the original production and everything that was sort of being relived in this beautiful new production of that play.
Yeah, and it was, speaking of the group theater, it was the group theater's first hit. So it was really, it was so fun to sort of imagine what that would have been like to work that way. Where, again, they're all, I think Clifford Odets was, I think Sandy Meisner was in it, and Stella Adler was in it, and all these guys.
It was like an ensemble group.
Yeah, and it was so exciting to work with these incredible actors, but really be an ensemble. Like, we needed each other. It was really these links in a chain or posts of a house. I mean, we absolutely all needed each other so much on stage, so there was just so much pull and tension, and it was a really beautiful experience.
Yeah, that was terrific. Then for 2 summers in a row, you played Shakespeare in the Park for the Public Theater at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, taking on the roles of Juliet in Romeo and Juliet opposite Oscar Isaac, and then Ophelia in Hamlet opposite Michael Stuhlbarg. What is it like working in the park?
I'm just noticing that you're telling, I did 6 Feet Under, and then I immediately, so this is how I did my career, people. Like, I immediately then ran to New York to be in some plays for no money. Like, that's what I decided to do, instead of like maybe, making hay and doing another series or something like that. But that's what I really wanted to do. I was like, oh, I want to go use other parts of me and do other things. So I wouldn't really trade the experience for anything. It
What was it like working in the park? Every star that I've spoken to that works in the park said it's the best experience they've ever had.
It's pretty
But there's
exciting.
raccoons, there's wardrobe, there's all this other stuff that goes with it, right?
Yeah, there was this great blue heron that would I did my warm up with every night as Juliet. So I would go in the back of the stage and do this, my physical warm up, and he would come and stand next to me, and then go find his nest, and I'd go on stage. Sort of at dusk, yeah. Families of raccoons following you on stage, lightning storms. There were so many nights in Romeo and Juliet where it turned out well for them because we didn't get to the final scene. It would be like a lightning storm and thunder and lightning, and she'd drink the poison, and then they'd call the show. So that was because those where you're rooting for, oh, don't drink it. It's like, oh, good, I got what I wanted. Yeah.
The show is over. Go home, please.
Exactly.
But you had a pond on stage.
We did. I called it the West Nile Pond because, not to joke about it, but frankly, there were like just nesting mosquitoes in this thing. I mean, they would clean it, but it's an off-Broadway play. Like, frankly, no, they would clean it, but still, it would be full of critters and whatever. So, and we're splashing around in that thing, and no, but actually, it was great to have that water on stage because we got to choose when to use it. And I remember I don't think I got in the water at all until I did Gallop Apace, and then I splashed into the water at some point to use it as, I don't know, a symbol of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These were two roles you always wanted to do, weren't they? In Shakespeare's canon, you always wanted to play Juliet and Ophelia?
Yeah.
No.
Who wouldn't? Yeah, I want to play the great roles. Absolutely.
Do you have
Othello, yes.
All right,
I want to play Othello.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I want to.
No, but I love that you finished up 6 Feet Under and you came to New York to do those. Because Meryl Streep, that's where she works. She works in the park.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to work for the public theater in the park.
I'm so glad I got to do those parts. I mean, Juliet got to be the best role ever written for a woman. I mean, she derives that play. She's like, Romeo, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. We're doing this, that, and the other. I mean, he can barely get a word in edgewise. And she just derives that play, and it's like, and she's 14. And it's so, I don't know where you go from there, but.
With Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
Before he became the Oscar Isaac. But we all knew then. It was like, wow, who's this actor?
Yeah.
Really sensational. And then Hamlet. How much fun did you have doing Hamlet with Michael?
Well.
Or is fun the word to you?
Yeah, fun, Ophelia, I don't know.
What you enjoyed the most?
Well, it was really fun because Oscar Eustace directed it, and he gave me so much freedom, as did Michael Greif with Romeo and Juliet. Both of those directors gave me so much freedom to explore, and it was, honestly, in Romeo and Juliet, it's really where I found my love of rehearsal. I was like, this is, now I understand, something insane could happen, something crazy could happen, the spark of creativity with just this unique group of people together for only one time. What will happen when we do this work? And it was just electrifying to sort of figure out rehearsal that way and have that feeling that I try to take into every job I do, including this one, and bring it into even every night, even though we've done, I don't know how many million performances even just so far, but maybe a million more, but we'll, just try to bring that spirit of rehearsal into it always. But those directors I was so grateful to them for giving me so much freedom to find crazy things and bring in crazy ideas and do them. For Ophelia, I came back in the crazy scene. I came back with my father's coat, and I really wanted to wear. I had these big boots, and I wanted to wear my dad's clothes, Polonius's clothes. Who was Sam Waterston played Polonius in that. He's beautiful in that, and I live out in the woods. I don't live in New York all the time. I live out in the woods and upstate, and I brought these rocks from my river, not my river, but a little stream that is there, and I found these river rocks, and I brought them with me to rehearsal, and I wanted to use them as I don't know, I wanted to use them for something, and then I ended up using them as my flowers that I gave out, and my son was just born when I played Romeo, when I played Juliet, and he was almost 2 when, or I guess he was 1. If it was next summer, yeah. He was a little over 1, and he had this habit of like taking a toy and going like this, and like you didn't know if he was gonna hand it to you and be nice, or like he was gonna try to brain you with it. He would just sort of like hold the toy up, and it was kind of a joke to him. He was 1, and it was something we would always joke about, and so I ended up using my rocks that way with the king and the queen, and bringing that stuff in. But like Oscar used to totally let me do all that crazy stuff and like, let me play.
I love it. I see a director in your son now. Your director will be a son. Your son will be a director.
Maybe. He's a musician.
Oh, what does he play?
Electric guitar.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with him.
Then there was Exit the King, co-starring with Jeffrey Rush, Susan Sarandon, Andrea Martin. I mean, we spoke during that time too. Was that a hard time during rehearsal finding that show, or how challenging was that, Exit the King?
It was a tough show for me, but let's see. Jeffrey Rush had already done it in Australia, so he had certain ideas about it. And we were coming in new to it, and he had been working on it for a long time. So we were bringing new ideas to something that had been already done very recently. I've never worked on an absurdist, piece before. I've never really done anything like that. But I'm a nerd, and that's why I got into it and went back to the French and sort of like tried to figure out the French and figure out the translation and figure out what it all meant originally and see what the original intentions were and campaign for certain things in the text. Yeah.
Because Susan Sarandon, I remember talking to her during that. She was like, it was very difficult for her to find that, like to get into it. She's like, I couldn't find it early on. She was later in the rehearsal process, and I finally realized what this was all about, like the whole feel of a show and everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe because her character is so logical. Her character was really represented a reason. My character, Queen Marie, was the other side of it, which was just hope. And so I got to just play and be hopeful and be loving and beam love and as best I could. And so I just felt, I don't know, it was just an opportunity to like mine openness.
And do something different.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I like to do things that are different from the last thing I've done and things that scare me, and I think that's the path to growth. And I've been really fortunate enough to be cast as, people give me a chance to try new things, and I that's been a gift.
So that's what you go after, stuff you haven't done, or things that challenge you or scare you.
Yeah, I mean, you're never just going to get offered the thing that they've seen you, they've never seen you do before. So the things that you're going to have to fight for and work for, like My Fair Lady, whatever, like you're going to have to go in and do 50 pages of dialogue because they're going to want to see it. So, but that's always the stuff that I'm interested in getting.
That's sensational. We have some questions from the audience. This is one from Susan. As an actor who sometimes sings, I struggle with the insecurities about my voice.
Okay.
You do such a lovely job with the singing in My Fair Lady. Did you have any insecurities about taking on this major singing role?
Yes. Of course, yeah. Because it's also not a concert version. It's not just like standing there and making the sound properly. I mean, there's times during the play where we're doing it's like a relay race marathon crazy obstacle course where I'm I do like 6 quick changes I go in a cupboard and change my clothes and run back out and do the thing and change my clothes and run back out and run up the spiral staircase and run down the spiral staircase and run another thing and then do Rain in Spain and then do I Could Have Danced All Night. And by then I'm like, and then I have to sing, so it's really.
You stay so focused during that show. Well,
that's the tricky part. Like that's the part that's that's nerve-wracking is how to balance technically all of the, there's all these wonderful emotions to play, but that's why I give such props to musical theater performers, because it is no joke, this kind of work, and it's like very, very tricky work, and then to sustain it for 8 shows and not run out of voice, energy, life. Yeah.
Because what people don't realize, Gwen Verdon said during Sweet Charity, you have to realize in a musical there's a whole other show going on backstage. There's a whole other track that, she would teach Cheetah and all these other girls, like, you have 2 seconds to sit backstage. This is what I do during this time period. I sit in a chair, I breathe, then I get up again, or I do a change. But everybody forgets there's a whole other show going on before you open a door and come out and sing The Rain in Spain.
That's right.
Yeah. This is from Cataline on getting started. What did you do to navigate your day job scheduling with your career? Like being a mom, she says here too. What were your top priorities? Any helpful advice that sticks out in your brain of juggling day, life, and career?
Well, I give all of the credit to my husband, who's incredible, who's like making this happen and has made many sacrifices in his own life for what we consider to be a family business at this point. So I have an incredible partner. That's really the key for me, to be able to have a family and do both things, because he's really shouldering the burden of keeping that all going while I'm essentially useless in that department, while I'm either sleeping or on stage. So we're going to quick change. So there's that. And meditation. I don't know, sneaking in moments with the children and trying to make them count, letting things go when those moments are awful because it feels too loaded up. I don't know, sneaking in naps. Sleep is cumulative, I believe. So I try to wake up in the morning and take my kids to school and then come back and catch some Z's and not feel, not panicking. That's the way, is not panicking about sleep, nutrition, or whatever's happening in the moment.
That's really great advice.
Yeah.
That's the best of what is.
I think.
Not panicking during your day.
Yes.
Saying, I have
like
2 shows to do today, or I have.
Yeah.
Do I have
like
enough
it will
energy
be.
for a
Yeah.
show?
It will be okay.
Yeah.
It will be okay.
That's probably the hardest
It's
thing.
it's a passing thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like they say, I'm a happy Buddha, I'm a sad Buddha. It's like I'm a mother losing it Buddha. So but like that will just pass on. Yeah.
But a lot of women who I've spoken to that have kids say it gets a little easier with kids, because when you have kids, that fills your whole life up anyway, and you put all your energy into that. So you find the energy to do the things you want to do outside of that too.
Yes, and you're astounded by what you're able to do when tired. Because once you've had children, you're like, before I had children, it was like, I have to have so much sleep, and if I don't have so much sleep, then I will never be able to do it. And now it's like, oh my God, well, this is the amount of sleep I have, so that's the amount of sleep I'm going to do it on, and it's going to get done, so,
I could do 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
This is from Natalie. How did you prepare differently for such an iconic role that many people have played before? Like, there was Julie Andrews, there was Audrey Hepburn, Wendy Hiller, Diana Rigg. I mean, what went through your mind on that?
How did I prepare to play?
To make it differently with all those other iconic versions out there.
Well, I can only do it the way I'm going to do it. Yeah. If I try to do it the way Julie Andrews did it, that would be awful and boring, and a disservice to everyone. So I really believe that the parts that I play come to me for a reason, and that I have something to learn from them in a real way. And if I work hard enough at it, I will, and keep my heart open, I will really learn something that I need to know for my life from whatever piece I'm working on. And so, it's what I always tell students, if I ever talk to students, is that, and I have to believe it for myself, and it's very Eliza Doolittle, actually, to carry into her arc is that, like, I always tell them, you are enough. Like, you and what you have to bring, your artistry, is what's exciting to us. And so I have to believe that for myself, too. I have to believe that what I can bring to it is enough. My own experiences and my own, you know, my own artistry. Like that's what's going to make it fun. And also working really alive, working with the people who I'm on stage with, you know, creating something new with them in the room, in the rehearsal room, and then every night, you know, really, really working together and letting something magical happen. So, you know, because it was Bart Scher and all of his whole team and all of the amazing artists that he collected to do this piece, it could never be like anybody else's, and I know that. So it would only be the version that we've all made together.
Beautiful. This is from Robin. What role would you love to play that you haven't yet? It could be theater, film, or a dream role of yours. Do you have one?
You know, I'm asked this question often, and I do not have enough ego to say a role. I really don't, because I believe that the roles that come and actually end up working out, that it's for a reason, and it's often surprising. I would never have imagined that I would be playing Eliza Doolittle right now. So, I mean, maybe when I was little, I would have imagined it. But I mean, I wouldn't, you know, when it comes along and you say, oh, okay, that's something that I could do. But to sort of, there's so many great parts. I would love to play them all. It's not going to happen, so I'm going to take the ones that you know, that I can.
Got it. From Colleen, how has your opera training influenced your life and career? Your opera training.
Oh, well, singing is just such a miraculous event that we can all do. It's all of our natural instrument, and people say singing is the fluidity of swimming plus the freedom of flying. And I think having that physical experience where you have sound resonating through you, you know, having that experience as a kid really did open me up to the world. And like, you just, you know, even singing in choruses with tons of voices and just being like absolutely surrounded by the sound, or even now with being surrounded by the sound of the orchestra, there's such an openness to that experience that I'm grateful for the question, because I'm sure it has impacted the way that I approach my artistry or my work, just a certain kind of openness that only music and singing sort of has the key to. So, yeah, maybe. Thank you for that.
Beautiful. Why do you think this production of My Fair Lady is so right for this moment in time, and what has made this so special for you doing this show?
Well, yeah, what an interesting thing that it's actually, you know, they decided to do this musical years ago, and then here we are now in this moment, post Weinstein apocalypse, you know, all of it, doing this play about a woman who discovers her strength and power and agency. Here we are doing it right now in this moment. What better time to do it? It's you know, George Bernard Shaw he wrote all of these incredible female roles. He was a feminist. I mean, because he believed in equality for all. He was a Fabian and a socialist, and so therefore a feminist. And he wrote these amazing roles for women to play. Condola Rashad is playing one of them down the street, playing St. Joan right now. So, you know, we've tried to honor his intentions in that, and draw out some of those themes, but really it's all there in the play. So it's pretty amazing. We had a student matinee the other day, and they were confused about the ending of our play, and I won't say anything to necessarily give it away, but a kid stood up and he said, I don't understand. What happens? Does she leave with Freddie? Does she stay with Higgins? What is she doing? And this girl responded to him, and she said, it was so inspiring. I actually I grabbed the microphone and I said, well, let's do a poll. What do you all think? Do you think she leaves with Freddie? Do you think she leaves with Higgins? No. And then this girl she clearly had something to say, and we brought her the microphone. And she said, it was so inspiring. Thank you so much, because she doesn't, choose one of these men, even though they would have so much to offer her and so much to give her, even though it would be so much easier for her. She chooses herself, and that's so inspiring to us. And I was so amazed by this beautiful 15-year-old girl that she really received what we were doing and what Shaw was writing, and it's just such an honor to get to go on this, jump on the moving train and go on this arc every night where it's, the most important transformation of this woman's life. We all have these moments of transformation in our lives where we change really who we are. And here is this, this most important transformation, and we get to perform the ritual of it every night. And I get to embody it and perform the ritual of it every night. And I'm sure by the end of it, it will have changed me. And I'm just incredibly grateful to get to do it, so.
My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, either personally or professionally, that you live by?
Oh. Henry James, I believe. I'm having a little bit of a moment, but I think Henry James was asked on his deathbed what the most important thing is in the world, and he said, what's the point of life? What's the meaning of life? And he said, be kind, be kind, be kind. And so we send our children out the door every day we say, okay, do you have your lunch and do you have your thing? And remember, kindness above all else. And that's what we send the kids out with. And this is actually a word that keeps coming up in the play, is kindness. Eliza says all she wants is a little bit of kindness from him. And it's a word that comes up a few times. And so, I don't know, that's what I try to live by.
That is beautiful.
Kindness above all else.
Well, first I want to thank you you do 8 shows a week, one of the hardest musical theater roles in the world, and you spent time with us this afternoon. She is so glorious in this show. If you have not gone, you need to see this performance. Like she says, the arc she takes and who this woman becomes on stage. Congratulations already on the Outer Critics Circle Award.
Thank you.
As Best Actress in a Musical, she's nominated for everything else. She's up for a Tony Award. Just go watch a master do what she does best in this glorious production. And thank you for spending the afternoon with us here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, Lauren Ambrose.